Today we are jumping into one of the wildest, most backward-sounding stories of strategy and faith you'll ever hear. We're talking about the story of Gideon.
I mean, think about it. It's a question every leader, every general, every person facing impossible odds has asked. But what if the answer wasn't about getting bigger, or stronger, or tougher? What if the secret was actually to get weaker? Sounds crazy, right? Well, let's see how that exact paradox plays out.
So before we can even get to our main character, you've got to understand the scene. And for the people of Israel, it was absolutely desperate. For 7 straight years, they had been systematically, completely, and utterly broken.
Okay, so let's set the stage. Our story kicks off with an entire nation that's been brought to its knees, all thanks to the brutal oppression of an enemy called Midian.
You see, the Midianite strategy was just devastatingly smart, and it's a perfect example of psychological warfare. This wasn't just a military takeover. No, they would wait. They'd let the Israelites do all the hard work of planting their crops, and then right at harvest time, they'd sweep in and burn it all, steal all the animals. The goal wasn't just to starve them. It was to create so much hopelessness that the people would turn on each other just to survive.
And the result of all this? People were literally starving, hiding out in caves. And this is where we finally meet our guy Gideon. And he's not on some glorious battlefield. We find him hiding, trying to secretly thresh a tiny bit of wheat inside a wine press. You know, a pit you'd normally use for stomping grapes, just so no one would see the dust and steal his food.
So it's right there, in that moment of absolute fear and hiding, that Gideon has a conversation that is going to flip his entire world upside down. He's about to be called a hero, something he never, ever imagined he could be. In this slide, wow, it just lays out the incredible disconnect. On the left, you've got Gideon's reality as he sees it. I'm from the weakest clan, I'm the least important person in my entire family. But then look at the right. This is how God sees him, a mighty warrior, the savior of Israel. The gap between those two viewpoints is just massive.
And Gideon himself says it. His response is basically, I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm literally a nobody from nowhere. How on earth can I save an entire nation? And you get it, right? His doubt is completely and totally relatable.
So, as you can imagine, Gideon doesn't just salute and say, "Let's go." He is deeply skeptical. He needs some serious proof that this whole thing is real. So let's look at how he goes from that rock-solid doubt to taking a huge, bold first step.
He starts by asking for a supernatural sign, and bam, he gets one. Then comes the first real test. Go tear down the town's idol, an altar to a false god, Baal, that actually belonged to his own father. Talk about a risk. He's so scared he does it in the middle of the night. But even after that, the doubt is still nagging at him. So he asks for 2 more super specific signs with a piece of wool, just to be 100% sure he's not crazy.
Okay, so with his faith now, let's say on slightly more solid ground, Gideon manages to raise an army. But this is where the story takes its most famous and, frankly, most bizarre turn.
Get this, he gathers 32,000 men. That's a pretty respectable army, right? They're ready to fight. For the first time, things might actually be looking up.
But then God tells him something that makes 0 sense. You have too many men. Can you imagine hearing that? You're about to go up against this massive, powerful enemy, and you're being told your army is too big?
So Gideon does what he's told. He sends home anyone who's afraid to fight. And, just like that, more than 2/3 of his army walks away. He's left standing there with 10,000 men.
And yeah, you can probably guess what happens next. God says, "It's still too many." At this point, the tension must have been just off the charts for Gideon. Any strategic advantage he thought he had is being completely dismantled piece by piece. So after one final test, this time down by the water, he's left with just 300 men. 300, that's it, 300 soldiers, against an enemy army described as being like locusts on the ground.
And here's the crucial thing to understand. The test itself, the whole thing about how the men drank the water, it wasn't really about finding the best or bravest soldiers. The source material makes it clear it was just a way, anyway, to get the number down to the impossibly small force that God wanted for his plan.
So, the big question. How in the world do you win a war with only 300 guys? Well, you do it with one of the most brilliant, most unconventional battle plans in all of history.
The plan was pure genius, all about psychological warfare.
First, divide your tiny force into 3 groups to make it sound like a much larger army is attacking from multiple directions. Second, surround the enemy camp while they're asleep. And third, on a single signal, unleash an overwhelming assault on their senses, the sound of trumpets, the crash of pottery, and the light from the torches.
And just look at their weapons. There are no swords, no spears mentioned here. They carried trumpets, clay jars with torches hidden inside of them, and their own voices. These were not weapons for killing people. They were weapons for creating absolute, mind-breaking panic.
And it worked. Oh, it worked perfectly. The Midianites wake up in the middle of the night to what sounds like a massive army attacking from every direction. In the dark and the chaos, they panic. They start attacking each other, and the whole army just flees in terror. Gideon gets a complete and total victory without his men having to fight in a conventional way at all.
So after all that, what's the point? I mean, why did the army have to be so ridiculously small? Why the bizarre weapons? What was this all about?
And here it is. This is the reason for the whole thing. The entire strategy was designed from start to finish so that no one in Israel could ever say, "Wow, our army was so strong, we won the day." The victory was so impossible, so clearly miraculous that the credit could only go to one place.
And that really leaves us with a powerful idea to chew on, doesn't it? The story of Gideon makes you completely rethink what weakness and strength even mean. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, the areas where we feel most limited, most outnumbered, most helpless, might actually be an invitation to rely on a different kind of strength, leading to a victory we never could have achieved on our own. So the question is, what impossible situation in your life right now is actually an opportunity for exactly that?